Hello everyone, welcome to Bonafide Hope Station, your motivational speaking channel that will always be there for you today, tomorrow and forever for all your inspiration, motivation and upliftment. Thank you so much for viewing and thank you so much for subscribing. Today with me here I have brought a topic on abuse. So what is it that on abuse we want to have a look at today? We want to have a look at the definition of abuse, the examples of abuse, the types of abuse, and as well the effects of abuse on the perpetrator, meaning to say the one who finds others as the victim or the victims, and the effects on the victim, and as well the effects on the community. So as we go further, we shall see that this type of topic is such a huge and sensitive topic, and therefore it is very unfortunate that I cannot address it in this same video. So what it means is I'll actually cut this same video into 2 or 3 episodes for you to understand this whole topic bit by bit. So what I'm going to do here is that I am going to record the first part of the topic, which shall be containing the first easy types of abuse that you will understand easily, and after that I will go on to record another video that will be containing the last part of the topic, which you will also need to understand and which will be a bit huge even if it contains few aspects to be looked on. So today we are going to define what abuse is, so that wherever you are in all the four corners of the world, you will be able to know what exactly abuse is, and whenever certain things occur, you will be able to identify and recognize each of these things. So what is it that we call abuse? Abuse is a pattern of behavior where one person intentionally harms or exploits another, and that often results in physical, emotional or psychological damage. Ladies and gentlemen, dear brothers and sisters in Christ, this is what we call abuse. It is a pattern of behavior where one person intentionally exploits or harms another, and that often results in physical, emotional, or psychological damage. That is what we call abuse. So let us quickly rush into the types of abuse. These types are here for you to know and for you to be able to recognize each and every time they get to a point where they exist in one's life or in your own life or in someone you know and in someone's life that you will be seeing, and in someone's uh, areas or in someone's circumstances that will be part of their encounter in lives. So we actually have 10 types of abuse. Those are the main types of abuse that we have. So let me list them down for you. But for today, we are going to have a look at the 9 types, the first 9 types of abuse. And in the second video, I shall explore on the last type of abuse. So what are these types of abuse? Let me list them for you without wasting much of your time. We have physical abuse. I will define each and every type of abuse after listing them for you. We have physical abuse. After physical abuse, we have emotional abuse on number 2. Number 3, we have verbal abuse. After verbal abuse, we have sexual abuse on number 4. On the 5th one, we have financial abuse. After financial abuse, we have neglect abuse on number 6. And after neglect and abuse, we have psychological abuse. After psychological abuse, we have institutional abuse. After institutional abuse, we have what we call digital abuse. After digital abuse, on the 10th one, we have what we call drug and substance abuse. So these are the main types of abuse that we have. And by the grace of the living God, I shall be exploring to you each and every type of abuse so that you get to know its definition. After you know its definition, you'll get to see its examples and its effects on the perpetrator, on the victim, and on the community. And after we are done with all this, we shall look at ways to end it. And we shall look at how it can be addressed and how it can be coped with. So these are the main types of abuse that which we have listed. Today we are going to have a look at the first 9 types of abuse. So number 1, what is it that we call physical abuse? This is the intentional use of force or violence towards another person, which often results in harm or injury. So I know that many of you know this type of abuse is something that is common, but many of you are unfortunate that they cannot be able to recognize that it is abuse. They actually think that it is a common or normal thing because they are used to it and they are used to seeing it happening to them or to others every day. But number 1 is physical abuse. This is the intentional use of force or violence towards another person, and that often results in harm or injury. So, what are the examples of physical abuse? We have hitting, slapping, pushing, or even kicking. Those are the types, or those are the examples of physical abuse. We have hitting, slapping, pushing, or kicking. Effects on the victim include long-term health problems. The victim might undergo long-term health problems, might undergo harm, might undergo injuries, and might even undergo emotional trauma. Because actually, when someone is being dominated by other people, they are in result traumatized. That is what they usually face. On the victim, it even brings about pain. Yes, because let's say someone has been hit or let's say someone has been slapped, they feel pained because that is how they must be able to feel naturally. So, on the perpetrator, what does it bring? It brings about a sense of emotional guilt, it brings about remorse, and it even brings about potential legal consequences. Because there is a time when someone is being physically abused, they actually feel dominated to a point that they lose confidence, and to a point that some others feel as if they have no reason to live here on earth. So, others might end up taking away their own lives, and which implies that this type of abuse mostly leads to suicides to those who take it as a way that they are so vulnerable to others. So the perpetrator undergoes situations which include loss of freedom, because when the law has taken its course, the perpetrator might be taken to court or might be nabbed to jail. And as a result, they might even have strained relationships and loss of freedom, as I have mentioned earlier. The perpetrator might also be isolated because no one actually wants to play with others who bullies them. So the perpetrator undergoes a situation where no one wants to make them as a friend. So that is the so what has happened to the victim also results in what will happen to the perpetrator during physical abuse. The perpetrator will undergo potential legal consequences because the law has to take its course whenever they realize that certain types of things are happening to other people in the community. So, without wasting much of your time, we have mentioned that the community the perpetrator might even have a problem where he finds himself being isolated by others, because as I've mentioned earlier, no one wants to play with others who dominate on them. So they actually find him unnecessary to be part of their lives. So, will that be fair? Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, boys and girls, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ. Please avoid by all necessary means to find yourself dominating over other people's lives, because it is an unfair circumstance whereby one lives in hell on earth all because of you. If you know that you physically abuse others more often, or if you know that you are currently physically abusing someone, please, I beg you, stop. Please, 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 I beg you, stop. Because that is unfair, and that is one of the most inhuman characters that we even expect in a human being. So please, if you know that you are physically abusing others, please from today onwards, I beg you and I plead with you to stop. Just be cool, just be calm, and just stop to be violent to others, because once this problem is not addressed, there is a risk of having it continuing is in a community, and that will lead to the community living under threat, living under a threatened mood, living under an intimidated mood, which implies that there will be a lack of happiness in the surrounding community. So to the community, what else does this type of abuse cause? It even causes increased burden on healthcare and social services, because once this type of abuse continues to occur, many people are injured and the healthcare services will be having increased burdens on them. So please let us lift all the burdens from the healthcare facilities, and let us make sure that we live peacefully without abusing each other. Let us go into number two. What is the type of abuse that is on number two? That is emotional abuse. What is it that we call emotional abuse? Emotional abuse, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ, is a pattern of behavior that can harm a person's emotional well-being, such as belittling, humiliation, and intimidation. That is what we call emotional abuse. What are the examples of emotional abuse? This include name calling. This also includes put downs, isolations, and even threats. That is what we call emotional abuse. So, what is it that emotional abuse have on the victim as an effect? First of all, it brings about emotional trauma, because when one is being treated in this way, they feel emotionally traumatized. And emotional trauma is such a dangerous circumstance where one even feels unconfident, and they even feel as if they have no reason to live on earth. So let me tell you something, a tip that I want to give you on abuse. Uh, Almost 90% of all the types of abuse leads to suicide. Almost 90% of all the types of abuse leads to lack of confidence, and they also lead to lack of self-esteem, just like emotional abuse. It leads to self-esteem on the to low self-esteem on the victim. That's it. That is what it leads. It also brings about an increased risk of mental problems on the victim. So imagine you being the one causing such types of problems to another person. How do you actually feel? Do you feel good by doing these things to other people? I doubt if you feel good. So let us look at what it causes to the perpetrator. It also causes strained relationships, just like physical abuse, because no one actually wants to be closer to those who makes them feel uncomfortable. That is what it means. It also brings about difficulties in forming healthy relationships and maintaining them. So emotional abuse and physical abuse mostly have uh, same consequences or same effects on the victims, the perpetrators, and the communities. That is what it means. They only have a slight difference, but they have more similarities on them, and that is what it causes. On the perpetrator, it also causes shame, remorse, and emotional guilt, because once the perpetrator realizes that they have made such mistake, when what is using them is no longer using them, they actually feel so guilty to a point that they can't even forgive themselves. But my question is, why have you been doing it from the first? Why didn't you just avoid doing it from the first? So please make sure we treat others with respect. Make sure we treat each other with love, care, compassion, and kindness, because that is what we want, and it will not be good for us to be facing such problems. These problems can be gone for good only if we avoid taking them into practical action. To the community, what does emotional abuse cause to the community? It causes lack of trust and safety in the relationships, because once it occurs, people lack trust and safety in them and in others as well. It also causes increased cost associated with the health, treatment, and support facilities. So let us try by all necessary means to avoid this type of abuse to be taken into action, especially in our own accounts. Please. Number 3, let us look at verbal abuse. What is it that we call verbal abuse? This is the use of words or language to harm or to intimidate or to manipulate others. This is the use of words or language to harm, to intimidate, or to manipulate others. So what are the examples of verbal abuse? First, we have yelling. Second, we have insulting. Third, we have name calling. And fourth, we have the use of derogatory language towards others. So what are the effects of verbal abuse on the victim? First, it causes emotional distress, because when one is being verbally abused, some of the vulgar languages that we use towards others, or some of the derogatory languages that we use towards others, continue ringing in their minds to a point that they cannot even forget what we have said to them, because some words are arrows, and please make sure what you say is not harming others. That is why the Bible even teaches us, saying in the book of Colossians, saying that let your words be seasoned with salt, because salt gives taste to all kinds of foods, and the Bible was actually trying to mean that our words should have tastes when others are listening to them. So please make sure what you say does not harm others, because others are harming others unknowingly. And please let us try by all necessary means to think before we speak and to cross-check before we say something towards someone. Let me give you a tip. If you don't have anything positive to say to someone, it is better for you to keep your mouth shut, because others are dominating other people's lives through the use of bad language and bad words. So please make sure you don't dominate other people's lives through the use of these kind of words. So what is it that verbal abuse give to the victim? Also, it also brings about difficulties in maintaining strong relationships and difficulties in forming long-lasting relationships or friendships with others. So imagine you being the one ruining someone's life by the use of wrong words. How do you feel? Do you actually feel good? Please make sure you don't do this to others. If you know that you are being abused in any way that we are listing here, please find someone to talk to. If you find it as a case that needs you to report someone to the police or someone to the officials of the community, please do so, because it is unfair for you to live a life that you have never deserved to live. So if you find yourself being abused, especially in any of these types of abuse, find someone to talk to talk to and share the problems to. Or even if you find yourself being abused in this way, you can even feel free to send what you are feeling or your problems to my WhatsApp account. I will display my mobile number so that you will be able to share your problems with me on that WhatsApp account, and we will find ways we can advise each other and give tips, life tips and life solutions when it comes to such problems, so that you will be able to live freely and happily. So to the community, what is it that verbal abuse causes? If this type of abuse is not addressed, others might admire it thinking that it is something that is good to do, but it is something that is not good to do. So when it is in the community, it brings about a problem where it can even continue if it is not addressed. That is what it brings about. So number 4, let us look at sexual abuse. What is it that you call sexual abuse? Sexual abuse is a non-consensual or forced sexual behavior, including rape, harassment, or molestation. That is what we call sexual abuse. This is the most dangerous type of abuse because it ruins one's life for good and forever. So, if you have intentions to abuse someone sexually, please stop. Because the consequences of this type of abuse are serious and are stiff. You'll never like them. So, the examples of sexual abuse include unwanted touching. Some of us have a habit of touching others, especially when they do not want that to happen to them. So please let us respect our wants and our needs. Let us respect also others' decisions, others' wants and others' needs. Because once we do this to others, this will result in us facing serious consequences. The examples also include kissing or sexual intercourse without consent. What actually happens during sexual abuse? Sexual abuse often happens at a point where the victim is under the perpetrator and the perpetrator is seeking dominance over the victim. So the victim actually finds themselves vulnerable and unable to defend themselves when they are at a point where they have the perpetrator having serious advantages on them. Let's take for example, maybe someone is the one who is taking care of you, who looks after you, who gives you food, shelter, water, clothes, and where to stay. And that kind of person abuses you. It might be difficult for you to go against what they want to do on you because you find them as their own source, as your own source of living. But let me tell you, that's not necessary, and that's not the way you have to take it. Others are being abused in silence. And please let me tell you, if you know that you are being sexually abused, please rush to the police. And after that, please rush to the clinic and get assisted as early as possible. Why am I saying so? Because this type of abuse on the victim, it brings about serious health problems and long-term or even permanent health problems. So it becomes difficult for you uh, to destroy those problems in your life when it took you a long time to reveal it. If you know that you are being sexually abused, please don't consider anything as a reason for you to hesitate to report the perpetrator to the police. Make sure that you don't keep it in silence. Because let me tell you something, healing, hope, and restoration comes after you speak out. That is how you heal, that is how you get restored, and that is how you get hope. We are driven by survival and we are empowered by hope. So let me tell you, you don't have to keep this in silence. You actually have to report because you deserve to live a life that you have always deserved. In the journey of life, you are not alone. So if you feel that this problem is something that you are encountering every day but you don't have anyone to talk to, I'm right here. And please feel free to share with me your problems, be they spiritual, be they physical, to my WhatsApp account. I will put my number, and that is my number on the screen. And I will make sure that you get assisted with all the effort that is in me and with all the power that I have. Because that is why I'm here. I am here for you. And you are not even alone. On the victim actually faces a problem of STIs, that is a health challenge that leads to HIV and AIDS pandemic. So imagine you facing uh, these types of diseases from this abuse, but with you remaining in silence. Don't keep your mouth shut when you are being sexually abused. Make sure you report. If you find yourself having no one to talk to, I'm right here. Just send your problems on that number. Also, on the victim, it brings about physical injuries and mental problems because when someone is trying to abuse you, they actually fight you. They actually fight you and you might get harmed or damaged. On the perpetrator, it includes potential legal consequences, and also the perpetrator might contract diseases because they might not even know the victim's health status. That is what it brings about. And when this is reviewed, the perpetrator undergoes a series of shamefulness or remorse. That is what they face. On the community, it brings about fear. People will start to live in fear because they actually think that this type of abuse might also fall on them. It also brings about lack of sense of safety and a decreased sense of togetherness. Let us go to number 5, financial abuse. This is the unauthorized or improper use of another person's financial resources, and it includes theft, deception, and coercion. The examples include stealing money or using someone's credit cards without permission. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. If someone does not allow you to be in control of what is not yours, please just respect that decision. Don't find yourself trying to force yourself into someone's belongings when they do not allow you to be part of them, because that will be unfair, and that is actually wrong, and that is totally prone to make you face potential legal consequences. Examples I've mentioned. And to the victim, financial abuse brings serious debts, because let's say you have taken someone's money that they have budgeted for themselves to use for their entire life, and you have taken out of their accounts from them without their permissions. It means they no longer have sources of income, and they will undergo serious debts and loss of financial stability. So imagine you being the one causing someone to suffer in such ways. Will that be a fair thing? I'm sure it will not be. Please, let us not do that. Let us say no to stealing. Let us say no to deception. And so let us say no to coercion, to theft, and to deception. Please, let us respect others' belongings. And please just take it in, if you were the one being financially abused, how would you take it into your own account of life? Please, let us not do that. I know that each and every one of us have what God has bestowed upon us as ours. So please, let us just rely on what God gave us individually. Because of data issues, I know many of you might not be able to see this video fully if it gets longer than what it is now. So for today, I have to end it here. And from tomorrow, I will continue from where I left, so that you will be able to digest each and every aspect we have had a look on this video today, bit by bit, so that it will be easy for you. We actually have no need to rush. You can even have a time to digest each and everything that we have talked about today on this topic of abuse. So let us look at the last part of abuse that I'm going to have a look on today, which is neglect abuse, number 6. From tomorrow, we shall be continuing from number 7. So number 6, what is it? That is neglect abuse. What is neglect abuse? This is the failure to provide for one's medical needs, food, shelter, and clothing, especially when you are at a point that you are able to provide, but you are intentionally abandoning them. That is what we call neglect abuse. So, what are the examples of neglect abuse? This includes the failure to provide for food, for water, for shelter, for clothing, and medical needs. But keep in mind that neglect abuse is only existing when someone is doing it intentionally. But when someone is in a situation where they don't have money, where they don't have financial stability, we cannot say that they are neglecting you, or we cannot say that they are abusing you. by the use of neglect abuse. So it is something that needs to be taken not seriously, that others might view it wrongly. It is not always that someone has failed to take care of you when they were supposed to, and then you say that it is neglect abuse. But it is where they have failed to take care of you intentionally. I hope you have understood that. Let us look at the examples of neglect abuse. This include the failure to provide for food, water, and shelter, etc. So what are the effects on the victim? First of all, the victim gets physical harm because when someone you should protect is not protected, they are prone to damages and injuries. And then secondly, they face malnutrition as a result of poor health. So imagine you being the cause of someone facing malnutrition and as a result of poor health. Will we be happy? To the perpetrator, neglect abuse makes them face potential legal consequences when the law has taken its course and realized that you are found guilty of that. So please, let us not neglect each other, because to the community, some people might even admire it as well, and they might even consider it something which is good for them to follow, and yet it is not. So please, let us take care of each other and let us not neglect each other. Thank you so much for giving me a listening ear. I love you all, and thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I would also love to thank my dear brothers who encouraged me to open up this channel so that I can reach out to you and I can be your tear wiper, and I can reach out to millions of people who needs help. Please, if you know that you need help when it comes to motivation, when it comes to inspiration, just contact this number and I'll greatly assist you, especially when you feel you have no one to talk to. I'm always there for you. I would also love to thank my mother, who is my guardian, who guided me up to a point where I found it necessary to open up this channel. I would also love to thank my sister and all my friends who have been there for me up to a point where I found it good to reach out to you people and know that, make you know that you are not alone in the journey of life, but God is always there for us, and I am there for you today, tomorrow, and forever. So please, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, comment, and even share to this channel. And please turn on the notification bell so that each time we post a video, you will be able to access it easily and you will be notified in your devices. So please, thank you so much.